They told us the American dream was a relic, a museum piece behind bulletproof glass. For the better part of a decade, the narrative has been one of scarcity. We were led to believe that the gates to the proprietor class were permanently locked, the keys held only by institutional giants and Silicon Valley elites. But look closer. In 2026, the geography of power is being redrawn. While the skyscrapers of Manhattan and the hills of San Francisco buckle under the weight of their own excess, a new class of stronghold cities is rising. These are the territories where the math still favors the brave. We aren't just talking about houses, we are talking about strategic sovereignty. To buy your first home in this market is to launch a counter-offensive. It is a calculated move to seize equity while the rest of the world is paralyzed by rent inflation. Welcome to the roadmap of the new America. City 10, Peoria, Illinois. Our journey begins in the heart of the Midwest, in a city that once defined the very pulse of the nation. To understand Peoria, you must understand the weight of its history. Once known as the whiskey capital of the world, Peoria was the engine of American vice and virtue. It was so central to the American psyche that for a century, politicians and performers asked one question: will it play in Peoria? If Peoria approved, the nation followed. But when the industrial gears slowed, the world turned its back. That was their mistake. In 2026, Peoria has transformed from a manufacturing relic into a healthcare and logistics fortress. With the presence of Caterpillar Inc. and a massive medical corridor, the economic floor is reinforced with steel. The data of the stronghold. Median home price, $130,000. The power play, in most coastal cities, the price-to-income ratio is a staggering 8:1 or 10:1. In Peoria, it remains an untouchable 2:5:1. Why it's a first home win? For the price of a luxury SUV, you are purchasing a 3-bedroom Victorian or a modern suburban sanctuary. You aren't just buying a roof. You are buying the ability to live on 30% of your income, while the other 70% goes into your war chest for future investments. Peoria is for the pragmatist. It is for the person who realizes that being house-poor is a choice, not a destiny. City 9, Rochester, New York. Further east, nestled near the Great Lakes, lies Rochester. A century ago, this was the image capital of the world. This was the kingdom of George Eastman, the man who taught the world how to freeze time with Kodak. It was the birthplace of Xerox. It was a city built on the alchemy of light and paper. When Kodak stumbled in the digital revolution, the city's heart seemed to stop. But look at the anatomy of Rochester today. The giants may have fallen, but they left behind a sophisticated infrastructure of laboratories, universities, and a highly educated workforce that refused to leave. Rochester didn't try to bring back the past. It invented a new future in photonics and high-end optics. It is now the most affordable tech-adjacent market in the United States. Median home price, $155,000. The power play, inventory. While the rest of the country suffers from a locked market where no one wants to sell, Rochester maintains a healthy flow of classic brick-and-mortar homes. Why it's a first home win? The rent vs. buy calculator in Rochester is a joke. Buying wins almost every time within 24 months. You are acquiring an asset in a city that is quietly becoming the Silicon Valley of optics. Your equity isn't just sitting there, it's maturing in a high IQ economy. City 8, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh is a city of 446 bridges, each one a testament to its status as the Steel City. This was the playground of Andrew Carnegie, the man who literally built the bones of the American skyline. For decades, Pittsburgh was gray, gritty, and invincible. Then the mills closed, the soot settled. Many thought the city would crumble into the Monongahela River. Instead, Pittsburgh did something no one expected. It traded its furnaces for fiber optics. Today, Pittsburgh is a global titan of AI and robotics. Carnegie Mellon University acts as the Pentagon of tech research. The city has successfully decoupled its identity from manual labor and attached it to the most valuable commodity of the 21st century, intelligence. Median home price, $225,000. The power play, neighborhood diversity. From the trendy lofts of the Strip District to the quiet, tree-lined streets of Mount Lebanon, the city offers a custom entry point for every type of first-time buyer. Why it's a first home win? Stability. Pittsburgh's market doesn't bubble. It doesn't experience the violent 30% crashes seen in Florida or Arizona. It is a slow, upward climb. Buying here is like putting your money in a high-yield, iron-clad vault. As we close part 1, the pattern is clear. The best cities for your first home aren't the ones on the covers of lifestyle magazines. They are the ones with industrial DNA. They are cities that know how to survive a collapse and rebuild. Peoria, Rochester, and Pittsburgh offer the first-time buyer something that no hype city can: margin. Margin to breathe, margin to save, and the tactical advantage of low entry costs in a high-value economy. Are you looking for a city that makes you look rich on Instagram, or a city that actually makes you wealthy in your bank account? City 7, San Antonio, Texas. Texas is a titan. It is an economic empire that would be the 8th largest economy in the world if it were a country. For years, the world's eyes were fixed on Austin, the live music capital turned tech mecca. But while Austin became a playground for the ultra-wealthy, San Antonio remained the pragmatic heart of Texas. San Antonio is a city defined by the frontier. It is the home of the Alamo, a site that symbolizes a refusal to back down against overwhelming odds. Historically, it has been a military town, anchored by Lackland Air Force Base and Fort Sam Houston. This military presence has created a recession-proof foundation that most cities would envy. In 2026, San Antonio is the strategic choice for the first-time buyer who wants the Texas growth miracle without the Texas-sized mortgage. While Austin's median home price skyrocketed past $500,000, San Antonio has fought to keep the dream accessible. Median home price, $265,000. The power play, the military-medical synergy. San Antonio isn't just about soldiers, it's one of the largest healthcare hubs in the country. This creates a dual layer of job security for homeowners. Why it's a first home win? Texas has no state income tax. When you combine that with a home price that is nearly 40% lower than the national average, your disposable income explodes. Buying here is a defensive maneuver that puts you on the offensive. You are capturing the appreciation of the Texas market while maintaining a lifestyle of abundance. City 6, Birmingham, Alabama. They call it the Magic City. In the early 1900s, Birmingham grew so fast that people joked it appeared out of thin air like magic. It was built on the big three: iron, coal, and limestone, the ingredients for steel. It was the only place in the world where all three ingredients were found within a 10-mile radius. But for decades, Birmingham was a city in wait. It watched as other southern cities like Atlanta stole the spotlight. That waiting period is over. In 2026, Birmingham is the dark horse of the American real estate market. The smart money has moved into Birmingham because of yield. For a first-time buyer, Birmingham offers the highest affordability index in the Southeast. This is a city where you can still find a charming, historic bungalow in a neighborhood with soul for a price that sounds like it's from 1999. Median home price, $180,000. The power play, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB. UAB is the largest employer in the state and a world-class research hospital. It provides a constant stream of high-earning renters and buyers, ensuring that your property value is anchored by intellect and innovation. Why it's a first home win? Birmingham is undergoing a downtown renaissance. Millions are being poured into the Civil Rights District and the Rotary Trail. Buying here now is like buying into Atlanta in the 1990s. You are getting in before the magic becomes common knowledge. City 5, Atlanta, Georgia. If Birmingham is the dark horse, Atlanta is the thoroughbred. It is the undisputed capital of the South. It is the home of Coca-Cola, Delta, and CNN. But for a first-time buyer, Atlanta is a city of pockets. It is a massive, sprawling forest of a city, and if you know where to look, it offers a level of influence that no other city on this list can match. Atlanta's motto is Resurgens, Latin for rising again. It was burned to the ground during the Civil War and rose from the ashes to become the center of the civil rights movement and later, the 1996 Olympics. It is a city that knows how to reinvent itself every 30 years. In 2026, the strategy in Atlanta is the Beltline effect. The city has converted old railway tracks into a massive loop of parks and trails. Any property within a mile of the Beltline has seen its value double or triple. The first-time buyer's mission in Atlanta is to find the next loop, the areas in the West End or South Side that are currently being revitalized. Median home price, $385,000, higher, but justified by the economy. The power play, the Hollywood of the South. Georgia's film tax credits have turned Atlanta into the largest film production hub in the world, surpassing Los Angeles in total production days. This brings in a nomadic, high-income class that keeps the housing market vibrant. Why it's a first home win? Atlanta is a ladder city. You buy your first home here, wait 5 years, and the equity you've gained is often enough to fund a portfolio of properties. It is a city for the ambitious. It is where you go when you want your home to be a high-performance engine for your net worth. As we conclude Part 2, a new theme has emerged: infrastructure and influence. San Antonio gives you the tax-free shield of Texas. Birmingham gives you the magic of high-yield affordability. Atlanta gives you the raw power of a global economic capital. These cities are not just places to sleep, they are platforms. They are the spots on the map where the population gravity is pulling. When you buy in a city where people are moving to, you aren't just buying a house, you are buying a seat at the table of the future. The North offers stability, but the South offers velocity. Are you ready to handle the speed of a booming market, or do you prefer the steady climb of the industrial North? City 4, St. Louis, Missouri. In the 19th century, St. Louis was the gateway to the West. It was the final outpost of civilization before the great unknown of the American frontier. Historically, it was a city of immense wealth, built on the fur trade, steamboats, and eventually, a massive manufacturing empire. But the 20th century was unkind to the gateway city, as it suffered from the same urban decay that plagued the Rust Belt. By 2026, St. Louis has executed a brilliant economic pivot. It is no longer just a manufacturing town. It is a global leader in plant science and ag tech, anchored by the Danforth Plant Science Center. For a first-time buyer, St. Louis is the affordability magnet. While the rest of the nation watches home prices spiral out of reach, St. Louis has maintained a market that respects the working class. Median home price, 2026, $224,000. The power play, the equity migration. We are seeing a massive influx of buyers from Chicago and the East Coast who are realizing that their $2,500 a month rent can be traded for a mortgage on a 4-bedroom historic brick home in neighborhoods like Tower Grove or Benton Park. Why it's a first home win? Stability. St. Louis has a price-to-income ratio that makes financial advisors weep with joy. In early 2026, the market saw a healthy 8% year-over-year increase, but it remains 42% lower than the national average. Buying here isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's a defensive financial strategy. City 3, Detroit, Michigan. There is perhaps no city in American history that has been more untouchable for the wrong reasons than Detroit. In 2013, it filed the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. The world wrote Detroit off as a ghost of the automotive age. But those who understood history knew that empires are not destroyed by one bad century. In 2026, Detroit is the site of the greatest urban comeback in modern history. The city has cleaned its balance sheets, cleared thousands of blighted structures, and invited a new wave of urban pioneers. This isn't just about Ford and GM anymore. Detroit is a hub for fintech, cybersecurity, and green energy. Median home price, 2026, to $100,000 city limits. The power play, the blight-to-bright transformation. The city has invested millions in land reuse agencies and neighborhood revitalization programs. Areas like Corktown and Midtown are now seeing property values climb at rates that outpace the suburbs. Why it's a first home win? Detroit is for the visionary. In 2026, you can still buy a home in Detroit for less than the cost of a down payment in New York. You are buying into a city with a massive soul, a world-class art scene, and a population that is fiercely loyal. The risk in Detroit is lower than it has been in 50 years, but the potential for explosive equity remains higher than anywhere else in the country. City 2, Charleston, West Virginia. While the world focuses on the glitter of the Sun Belt or the tech hubs of the coasts, a quiet revolution is happening in the mountains. Charleston, West Virginia, is the capital of a state that was once synonymous with coal. But coal is no longer the only story. In 2026, Charleston is positioning itself as the Ascend Sanctuary. Through initiatives like Ascend WV, the state is actually paying remote workers to move there. Charleston has become a haven for those who want to decouple their high-tech salaries from high-cost cities. Median home price, 2026, $225,000. The power play, private investment and infrastructure. In her 2026 State of the City address, Mayor Amy Schuller Goodwin highlighted over $315 million in new construction investment. The city is breaking ground on massive public safety centers and riverfront connectors, signaling a long-term commitment to growth. Why it's a first home win? It is the lowest entry point for a capital city in America. Charleston offers a high-quality lifestyle, mountain biking, hiking, and a burgeoning culinary scene, with a cost of living that allows a first-time buyer to pay off their home in record time. It is a market that feels untouchable by national economic volatility because its growth is driven by fundamental redevelopment, not speculative bubbles. As we wrap up Part 3, a clear theme has emerged: the value of the rebuilt. St. Louis, Detroit, and Charleston are cities that have seen the bottom and decided they didn't like it. They have spent the last decade tearing down the old to make way for the new. For you, the first-time homebuyer, these cities represent a reset button. They offer the chance to own a piece of a city's future without being buried by its past. Whether it's the brick charm of St. Louis, the raw energy of Detroit, or the mountain serenity of Charleston, the interior strategy is about one thing: winning the long game. The coasts offer prestige, but the interior offers peace of mind. Are you ready to stop chasing the hot market and start building a stronghold in a city that is actually built to last? City 2, Columbus, Ohio. If the East Coast is a museum and the West Coast is a startup, Columbus, Ohio, is the laboratory where the new American middle class is being engineered. For decades, Columbus was overshadowed by the industrial grit of Cleveland and the riverboat history of Cincinnati. But in 2026, it has emerged as the undisputed intellectual anchor of the Midwest. Columbus was always built differently. Unlike its neighbors, it didn't rely solely on steel or manufacturing. It was built on education, government, and insurance. It is the home of the Ohio State University, one of the largest and most influential research institutions on the planet. This academic gravity has created a city that doesn't just produce products, it produces ideas. In 2026, the strategy in Columbus is driven by the Silicon Heartland. Intel's massive semiconductor investment just outside the city has triggered a ripple effect. Thousands of high-paying engineering jobs have flooded the market, but the housing supply, while tightening, remains strategically accessible compared to the national tech hubs. Median home price, 2026, $319,900. The power play, inventory stability. While cities like Seattle see inventory vanish overnight, Columbus has seen a 7.2% increase in new listings as of early 2026. This gives the first-time buyer the rarest of commodities, time. Why it's a first home win? Columbus is a top 10 hotspot because it balances growth with a manageable cost of living. You aren't just buying a house, you are buying into the future center of American manufacturing. The equity growth here isn't speculative, it's fueled by the most significant domestic industrial expansion of the decade. City 1, Jacksonville, Florida. At the summit of our list stands the River City. In 2026, Jacksonville has claimed the throne as the one best city in the United States to buy your first home. It is a city of staggering scale, the largest city by land area in the contiguous U.S., and it has used that space to create a fortress of opportunity. Jacksonville has always been a city of logistics. From its deepwater ports to its history as a banking hub, it was built to move things. In the early 20th century, it was even the winter film capital of the world before Hollywood stole the crown. It is a city that has survived fires, economic shifts, and the relentless humidity of the Florida coast to become an untouchable economic power. The brilliance of Jacksonville in 2026 is its rent-to-owner equilibrium. While Miami has become a playground where rent consumes 37% of the median income, Jacksonville's rent burden sits at a comfortable 23%. This allows residents to actually save for a down payment, a feat that has become a myth in the rest of the Sunshine State. Median home price, 2026, competitive with nearly 48% of all listings considered affordable for a median income earner. The power play, the inventory surge. Jacksonville leads the nation in the ratio of affordable listings per renter. With nearly 6 homes available for every 100 renters, the buyer finally has the leverage. Why it's a first home win? It offers the complete package. You get the Florida tax advantages, no state income tax, the coastal proximity, and a diversifying economy that ranges from naval logistics to a burgeoning fintech scene. In 2026, Jacksonville is the only city that allows you to buy into the Florida dream without the Florida nightmare of overleverage. The hierarchy is clear. Columbus and Jacksonville aren't just cities, they are the endgame of a successful housing strategy. They represent the two paths to victory. Columbus, the path of high-tech appreciation and academic stability. Jacksonville, the path of lifestyle optimization and inventory-driven leverage. Both cities have achieved an untouchable status in 2026 by doing what the coastal giants failed to do. They kept the door open for the next generation. They realized that a city's true power doesn't come from its billionaires, but from its ability to turn a first-time renter into a first-time owner. The map has been revealed. The data is clear. We have looked at the industrial survivors, the southern migrators, and the intellectual anchors. But knowing where the strongholds are is only half the battle. This final part concludes our epic narrative. We pivot from the where to the how, focusing on the psychological and strategic dominance required to finalize your conquest of the 2026 market. Knowing the map is not the same as holding the territory. In 2026, the final step for the first-time buyer is the siege of the closing table. The markets we have discussed, from the industrial rebirth of Detroit to the sunny dominance of Jacksonville, are no longer secrets. They are active battlefields. To win here, you must move with the precision of a sovereign power. The strategy for 2026 is no longer about the highest bid, but the cleanest strike. With mortgage rates stabilizing in the mid-6% range and inventory recovering by nearly 9% nationwide, the leverage has shifted back to those who are prepared. The untouchable buyer is the one who enters the fray with a fully underwritten pre-approval and the flexibility to see past the aesthetic and into the infrastructure. In a market defined by loss aversion, the fear of overpaying, the most successful buyers are those who realize that time is their greatest ally. Real estate is the only asset class where you can live in your investment while it compounds. In cities like Columbus or St. Louis, your home is not just a shelter, it is a high-yield savings account made of brick and mortar. The economic influence. How does this matter? Why go through the stress of the hunt? Because the data of 2026 confirms an ancient truth. Homeownership is the ultimate wealth multiplier. Current research shows that Americans who secure their first home by age 30 are, on average, $119,000 wealthier by age 50 than those who wait. In our stronghold cities, this gap is even wider. When you buy in a city like Rochester or Birmingham, you are decoupling yourself from the rent inflation trap. While your neighbors see their housing costs rise by 4% or 5% every year at the whim of a landlord, your principal and interest are locked in. In 10 years, as these cities continue their upward trajectory, the cheap house you bought in 2026 will have become a legendary asset. You will hold the equity that allows you to fund businesses, send children to college, or pivot into even larger real estate holdings. You are no longer a passenger in the economy, you are the pilot.